This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
The youth of Central Texas represent our future, but for far too many of them, daily life is a struggle, and that's where the Cove and the Methodist Children's Home Family Outreach Center step in to fill the gap. And I'm so happy to have with me today Kelly Atkinson, who's the Cove's Executive Director, and Trey Oakley, Methodist Children's Home President and CEO. Guys, thanks for coming to be with us today.
Thank you.
Well, let's start off and talk about how big the problem is. I've visited with folks from the Cove on Central Texas Living, the TV show, and I think it's always astounding how many homeless children there are in Central Texas.
You're right. And I mean, the fact is, when we talk about the Cove, we talk about youth homelessness really being an invisible problem. And it is one of those things that students and young people aren't necessarily trying to promote about themselves or make known. You know, we have a lot of teenagers who come to the Cove who are involved in extracurricular activities. They're on the track team and they play volleyball and they work, every day after school. And it really is a secret that they keep to themselves a lot of times, that maybe they don't know where they're going to stay that night, or that their family has been kicked out and they've been having to find a place to stay, or that they're in their car, that they have their clothing in their car and they're finding places to shower and freshen up and show up with that really, big smile on the next day in such a way that you really wouldn't know.
What numbers are you looking at, though?
We have started in a partnership with Waco ISD. So in the fall of 2016, we opened our doors, but there were several years of conversation before that time. One of our co-founders at the Cove is named Cheryl Pooler. She has her doctorate in social work and teaches at the Garland School at Baylor. And her research emphasis is in youth homelessness. And so her passion for that work really came from being a social worker in the school, in the Waco High School area. And just, coming to realize this wasn't just one or two students, wasn't just dozens. There were hundreds of high schoolers in our community that she was starting to meet. And when you peel back the layers or you just develop that trust, you start to hear there's a lot going on in this student's life. And there are reasons why they're not showing up at school. They're not sure that they're going to graduate. They're very behind in credits. And so she felt strongly and just began to do a lot of research about ways to support youth experiencing homelessness. And an after-school drop-in center was one of the models that she learned about in the nation that was starting to be, again, effective in the sense of having a safe place to go. For a lot of these teenagers, they would say, I don't really feel safe at the place where I'm staying. It's not my place, or the people that I'm there with are unpredictable at best and maybe not safe at worst. And so they're really looking for ways to kind of make it through high school. And for a lot of them, they've just learned to kind of take care of themselves. They're very independent. But at the same time, they're still 16, 17. And even when they turn 18, it's not as if they're really well prepared for self-sufficiency because of all of those gaps that they've made their way through. So anyway, Dr. Pooler was part of Waco ISD at that time, and we built a partnership to where students from Waco ISD who are identified by the district as homeless, lacking fixed, adequate, or regular housing, they're bused to the Cove after school. And then we provide care in the afternoon and then help take them to where they're going to stay at night.
So you don't have beds there?
We don't. We're not a shelter.
Right.
And last year there were 224 high school age students identified as homeless. And the year before that there were 335. So that's just in the three high schools, University High, Waco High, and Brazos Credit Recovery. So the problem of youth homelessness has doubled. The numbers have doubled in the last 10 years in our nation. And so there's just something that's shifted, I think, to where our teenagers are really bearing a lot of instability and pain. And by the time they are, 18, they've already lived quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. 430 years, the Methodist Children's Home, though, has been providing that place, that of stability for children whose parents can't or won't take care of them. But this, the family outreach, this is something new. So let's talk about that, Trey.
Sure, Ann. It's one of the things where we are known primarily for exactly what you said, that location on Herring Avenue, the beautiful campus that has been there since 1890, cornerstone of Waco. And so for children to come from all over Texas and New Mexico, which is our service area, to come and to live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we try to surround those individuals with caring, loving individuals, programs that can bring about changes in their lives. And so when we begin to look at how could we expand our reach primarily here in Waco, we had an outreach center and they were doing fantastic work. But as part of our new strategic plan, at that time, we said we want to do even more in McLennan County and in Waco. And so the Family Outreach Center began to expand their services, adding in not only parent training to try to keep some, as Kelly was mentioning, some of those families that are right on the fringe.
Mm-hmm, right on the bubble.
And we live in a society where so many of us are one phone call, one paycheck, and COVID-19 has
it's
shown
shown
us
that, yes, how delicate some people's stability is.
That's right. So in addition to those parent trainings that we were doing, we said, what else could we do? And so begin to expand that and really put in more resources into what we call a GAP program. And that is grandparents and other relatives that have stood up and stand in the gap for that child so that homelessness won't become the condition that they're in, to try to keep that family together. And so family preservation was really our focus of what we wanted to do. So we were doing that, but we were doing it from our Waco campus, and we said, what's the next step? And the next step was to have more of a visible location, to have that visible location, and then to find good partners and collaborators in ministry that we could look to do. And we were working with the Cove on a number of different issues.
I bet you were, yeah. Already.
Yep.
So your new facility, this is a new location for the outreach, right?
Yes, for the outreach. So we moved it off of that beautiful Herring Avenue campus and just down the road, close enough, but right there on Waco Drive. And we wanted to become more visible, but not just symbolically more visible. We wanted to really be a place where people could locate and identify. And one of the things that has happened is individuals driving by that location have seen some of those billboards and have said, help is here. And we have great stories of not only the families that we've walked alongside with for extended periods of time, but also those families that have just driven in because they found themselves in that crisis situation and said, we need some help. And so we're very excited about that location and how it's going to continue to grow and raise awareness.
So who helps you, Kelly, with these students? I would assume you have a staff of volunteers that help kind of mentor these students.
We do. You're right. The Cove is really a young and small nonprofit, but we really feel very blessed to have been very much embraced by the community. So there are dozens of churches, let's say, who maybe their youth group has prepared hygiene kits for our students. You know, there are churches and sorority groups that have said, let's do this as a service outreach together, where we can sign up for a night a month, you know, or a night a week where we can come and volunteer at the Cove. So there are just so many. I would hate to even start to name any because I think that our mission has become so embraced by the community, and we feel that because there's no way that we as a small organization with 5 staff members could really help each and every student to get to a place of self-sustainability on our own. We couldn't do that because students need to learn about how to balance a checkbook. They need to learn about how to run a dishwasher. They need to learn about being at work on time. And a lot of times also they need maybe one certain thing, you know, to just make it to the next step in their life. So a student this last year was able to be part of the Waco Academy in the district, but she needed a pair of white tennis shoes. And so, you know, I think about that as a parent, and we go get white tennis shoes. But for our students, a lot of times it might be something as small as that kind of keeps them from being able to take that next step. And so we really do a lot of individualized support. So if it's white tennis shoes, or if it's help in being a reference for this job application that you're doing, or even sitting down with our students and doing the job applications and saying things along the lines of like, hey, you need to capitalize all of the first letters of the sentences that you're writing here. They're used to texting.
It's not a text message.
Yeah, it's not. It's different. So we have volunteers from Baylor who sit down with our students. We have tutors that are employed by the district. We work closely with the counselors on those campuses to identify, you know, if there's some clothing need or if there are just basic hygiene needs that students have, then we work together to meet those needs. But we have, for instance, like an Amazon wish list on our website.
Really?
And it's not uncommon for us to show up in the morning at the Cove and unlock the door, and there to be a box there with a wish list delivery from someone in Tennessee who said,
wonderful.
I heard about your need, and here are some white socks. So we definitely rely on the generosity of our community to help meet those individual needs.
And as for the Methodist home, the Methodist Church funds, how are you funded?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are extremely blessed in the fact that coming into this role, I am standing on the shoulders of individuals who have given for decades and decades. And back in the 40s, actually, there was an endowment fund that was set up. And through good stewardship, continued investments into that endowment fund, we've been blessed with the overwhelming majority of our annual support comes from earnings from this permanent endowment fund. And what is fantastic about that is we know we still have annual fundraising goals that we have to reach in order to meet our budget, but it gives us that stability. And again, how important that is during times like this, when markets go up and down, to be able to look at the children, youth, and families that you serve and say, because of good stewardship of those who have gone before us, we don't have to ride the wave, cut services and cut staff members. We can provide that secure support that you need, because just as Kelly's saying, with volunteers, with mentors, with staff members, one of the greatest gifts that we give young people who are struggling is consistency. Consistent advocates in their life, because a lot of them had people that have come in, pat them on the back for a little bit and said, hey, go change your life, go make it better.
Yeah, go get them,
And we just know, because of the trauma that some of the young people have experienced, some of the trauma of the family, and even generations of trauma,
that's right.
That what we see is they need people that they know are going to be there for them no matter what comes along, no matter what time, no matter what circumstances. And so the short answer to your short question is we're very, very blessed to have that permanent endowment fund, which allows us then to go out and be aggressive in our fundraising, but never have to turn away or cut services in uncertain times.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful campus, though. I love to just drive over.
It is, isn't it?
Around it, it looks like a college campus. I mean, it's just lovely. How many folks are living there now?
Yeah, so on our Waco campus, we have 120 young people that live there.
Wow.
And again, they live in homes, and they are family-style homes as much as we can. We have two types of programs that we run. One is a home parent model where husbands and wives come in, and for many of them, it's a second call to ministry. In the fact that they see this as where they can come in and really invest in the lives of young people, and they work 7 days on and then have 7 days off. And believe me, they enjoy those 7 days off, as you can imagine, working with 8 young people in those homes. But we also have shift work models where we have individuals that come in and work for 8-hour shifts. And it's those continual people that come into their lives. And then outside of our Waco campus, then we have our boys ranch, which houses up to 30 boys, which is about 20 miles outside of town. And so those young boys come in ages 11 to 18 years old, come in, participate in education. We have an FFA program, ranch style living. And I will tell you that sometimes when I drive out there, they try to get me to do some ranching things like baling hay or something. I always have something really professional that I have to be doing.
That's right. No, I can't get hot and sweaty
at that time. But the majority of the young people and families that we're serving now are in these outreach offices, and we have 13 of them throughout Texas and New Mexico. But that's why this effort, this collaboration with the Cove and the work that we've done before was so important, because Waco is our home. It's been our home since 1890, and so we wanted to make sure these great programs and services that we were doing throughout Texas and New Mexico, we were also doing right here at home.
And so this space that's going to be available to the girls, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So have you moved in, or what is the time schedule?
Yes, on Monday. So we got key fobs on Monday and got access into the gate, and our staff has been bringing over the small things, and then actually really literally right now our professional moving team is moving stuff in. So the big things, refrigerators and couches and such, are going in right now. So we're so excited. We actually just had a board meeting today, and we gave our board a virtual tour and walked everybody through the progress that we've made so far. So everybody is just so excited. It's double the space. And so
I was going to ask how much of an impact this additional space would be.
It's double the space, and the space was it's very open, and so it was built in with having groups of young people in mind. And so there are 2 really big spaces that we can use for a community gathering area, and then one for a dining area. And then we have space for some workout equipment. We have a really great partnership.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, with friends at Baylor's Department of Psychology and Neuroscience, who have been providing high intensity interval training workouts for this will be our third year. So a lot of just exciting things like that we now have space for. There's a little technology hub that is like kind of a bar, that you can pull a stool up to, and we can have multiple desktops going on right there, as well as potentially having laptops and other spaces throughout the facility that students can hop on and work on coursework or work on applications for things. And so we're excited about that. And then obviously there's space for our staff. So it feels like a dream come true. The space is brand new, and so it looks really good. We're really trying to cook up some neat ways for young people to have a chance to help us not just decorate, but also kind of create a mural, do some artwork inside the space that is inclusive of some of our teens and some of our graduates. So we miss students because we haven't had students in the building since before spring break.
Right.
But we're really hoping to have students in the building this month. So
that is going to start pretty
That's
quickly.
our plan. We have multiple scenarios, just trying to think about safety precautions and what it could look like. But we have multiple students that we've been in touch with over the break, and then there actually have been a number that we've just simply lost touch with, where maybe their phone has been disconnected, or we know that their family has moved out of the district or out of the city. And so we're anxious to see those faces again, and also just know that once school starts back up, it's likely that there will be a lot of new students that we get to meet and who will need a place like the Cove. So we're excited.
It's wonderful to know that it's there, and that this collaboration has been put together. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say one more thing too, because the programs that we've collaborated on already have been some of the transitional living programs that Methodist Children's Home has. And so there is a transitional living for youth 18 on the campus, but then there's also an independent living program that's off of the campus, and they're really supportive housing apartments that some former Cove graduates have been able to live in as kind of a next step. And so those have been, they're basically kind of 3 or 4 different residential options for housing for youth. And we've worked together a lot, our staffs, to just really try to find the best fit for whichever housing solution might be appropriate for that young person. But those have been the ones that we've really made the most connection with.
And that's a great point to bring up. I mean, we have really followed alongside the Cove on a number of different issues, as you've already picked up. A lot of the populations that we serve do cross over. And so, when we had this first floor space, we had so many questions about what we were going to do. We explored so many different options, from daycares to after-school programs to on and on and on. Just the list went on, and it was a great opportunity for a ministry like Methodist Children's Home that has so much tradition and so much history. But we learn a great deal from our relationship with the Cove, because that upstart organization that sees everything as fresh and new. And so it was an opportunity for us to really go through that exercise. And Lyle Mason, who was the executive director of the Magnolia Foundation, actually had a shared relationship. We brought Lyle back onto our staff as the vice president for development. But he said, have you contacted Kelly Atkinson at all about what the Cove might envision in this space? And so really we had moved to, there are going to be 2, 3, 4 collaborators or partners in there. And then I remember from some of the first times we walked through that space, just to see the creativity of Kelly and her team to begin to already look at that space and see what they could do. It really has just evolved from people bringing an idea together to something that we're both very excited about. And I know from Methodist Children's Home standpoint, very excited about how it's going to make our organization better, which in turn is going to make Waco better, and it's going to be a better thing for young people in this area.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
You talk about the history, though, of the Methodist home and alumni, even some who have gone through the Cove's program. Right. But I know with 130-year history, there are some really remarkable people who were benefited by the Methodist home. What does it mean to have those alumni support you all?
Our alumni association is fantastic. In fact, one of the COVID-19 surprisingly has been really good for us in the way of it's challenged us to think differently, and so we've tried to turn it into a positive. But there have been so many negatives, obviously, when you see the toll that it's taken on families, when it's taken on individuals. But also one of the negatives was for the first time since the 30s, we didn't have a homecoming. And so we had to cancel that because of travel restrictions. And so it's a big loss when you don't have the opportunity to open the campus back up to our alumni. And how proud I am of our alumni, because here's a news flash: things have changed in 30, 40 years. That's the core of our alumni association, but they still see this as their home. And while they may remember the days when there were 300 plus kids on the campus, and what they remember about Methodist Children's Home, the excitement that our Alumni Association has just shared about this collaboration and the new things that are going on. Very proud of our Alumni Association. And you're right, the best examples of the ministry of Methodist Children's Home, you find that when you bump into one of our alumni.
Yeah, they have great love for what was provided for them then. I'd like to get to know you guys a little bit better, though. Kelly, what brought you, to Waco? What brought you to work at the Cove? And you've been there for many years, since the beginning?
No, not since the beginning. For 2 years. Okay. This March has been 2 years. So I came to Waco in '97 to go to Baylor. So I've been here for now, I guess, 23 years. It's kind of crazy to think about that. But I've been here longer than I've been in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. So grew up in Memphis and came to Waco and met my husband at Baylor. And I was actually one of those who was like, get me out of Waco. But it's been actually really amazing to see how Waco has changed in the last 23 years. I mean, when I came to Baylor as a freshman, I think there was one restaurant that you would go to, and it was Chili's that was out on like North Valley Mills. And to make your way from Baylor to that Chili's, you felt like you were traveling to another planet. I did. As a little freshman Baylor person, I felt like I was exiting this bubble and going so far into this other community that I didn't really know. And then as I, progressed at Baylor, I really came to love Waco. And remember just thinking about like Baylor really, does have its own kind of way of doing things and its own community. How does this relationship work between Waco and Baylor? And it's been really neat to see over the years the way that relationship, I think, has really blossomed into some real positive partnerships and what it means to be a good neighbor and a good friend to a city. I think I see that in Baylor, and then I see our city just really blossoming as well. And obviously, all of the ways that Magnolia and Chip and Joanna have been a beautiful gift to the city. I think honestly, it's just been amazing to see the fuel that's kind of come into something that already had a flame to it. And I think just to see Wacoans prosper and to see different businesses start here has been really a great thing to witness and be a part of. So I taught in Baylor School of Social Work for 10 years and taught in the community development kind of realm of things in our Master of Social Work program and spent a lot of time with my kids. So my oldest is 13 and my youngest is 6. And so I looked for ways to kind of remain involved in community development and teaching, and then also being present with my kids during that time. So, just started this position in March of 2018, and it's been a whirlwind. I really didn't know what it would be like to be leading kind of a startup nonprofit, and there have been so many things that I've learned along the way and really had to learn. But I think it's just been such a supportive environment to learn those things. And again, our community has been really bought into our mission, and that has made it such a rewarding space to grow in. And then also, I've just come to love our students. There are a couple of graduates that I still keep in touch with, and it's really very, very rewarding to see them change their image of themselves, their leadership capacities, the ways that they express their thoughts and opinions, and ways that their experiences that they lived through as teenagers that could have really tanked a person.
Sure.
They've said, I'm gonna keep growing. So I think that's very inspiring for me every day, and it's been something I've really loved.
All right, Trey.
So
what brought you to
I learned something
Waco?
new about
Yeah.
Kelly.
Well, there you go.
We had something in common. So I graduated from Howard Payne University out in Brownwood, and was coming here to Truett Seminary and had everything mapped out perfectly. And so therefore, I had set a time limit on my stay in Waco. It was not going to be long term. And really, what got me out to Methodist Children's Home is back in, Kelly, you may not know this, they used to have ads for jobs in newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
And not online. So back
help wanted.
That's
right.
And so I saw a job ad for it was a part-time librarian at Methodist Children's Home. And I'm not a librarian. I know what a book is, but that was about it. But I was looking for something to do.
Dewey Decimal System, not really
great.
part of your background. Huh?
I was looking for something to do while I was going to be a full-time student. And
Sure.
in fact, my now wife, we had dated in college, and she went back home to Fort Worth. And so I figured that if I was going to get married, my future father-in-law might want to see that I had a little bit of an income. So that was my motivation for going out to Methodist Children's Home. And actually didn't get the librarian's position, but they had a fancier position called the Assistant Director of Religious Education. A really, really long title that really at the core of it just allowed me to connect with young people.
Kind of youth minister.
And then that's
Yeah.
exactly what it was. And
Yeah.
from there, then got a chance to move into development, the fundraising side. And so
Always necessary.
That's right.
and that's what I did from 2001 up until last year when was
Wow.
named the president. And so Waco was not supposed to be home. I was a good Baptist boy working at this Methodist organization. None of it fit into my 5-year timeline. But I think that's been an eye-opener for me to realize that we are, whether through the Cove or Methodist Children's Home, a lot of times we're working with young people that in that moment don't have the timeline laid out. Or even more damaging is that some of them have had words spoken over them about what their destinies are going to be. And that's what I fell in love with about Methodist Children's Home and appreciate about organizations like the Cove is we not only come in and say, well, it might be different. We equip young people. We surround them with believers that say, not only can it be, but here's how it will be, and we're going to be with you along the way. And so I wish I could say I was just instrumental in changing so many lives, but I have learned so much from the children, youth, and families, the resiliency that's there. It helped me appreciate how I was raised, to be grateful for that, but it's also shaped me as a better husband, as a better father. My kids are 17 and 13, and they really have to work hard to pull something over on me because we get a lot of on-the-job training in taking care of taking care of young people.
Exactly. Well, you are both of you success stories for those who work so hard to try to keep, the young people here in Waco, just making it so much a better place. Well, I have one last thing that I like to do. I like to end these visits with, it's a questionnaire similar to the one that the late, great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actors Studio. Okay. And this is my little version of it. So what's your favorite word? Just pop in either one of you. They can tell by your voices who's who.
Life.
Yeah. Sorry.
Life.
Life. Wonderful.
Hope.
Hi, life and hope. All right. What's your least favorite word?
Moist.
We've heard that before.
I believe it. It's an unpopular word.
That is so funny.
My least favorite word. Wow, that's a really, really good one. Can't. That's 2 words, but just play along.
Right. No, that's good. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Nature. Being in nature.
Opportunity to build, create.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What turns you off?
A focus on what isn't.
I'd copy off the smart kid on that one. When someone puts too many limits on things.
Negativity, maybe.
All right. What sound do you love?
I love the sound of water moving like a little stream. I love that sound.
Mine was either what just happened, that dead silence as we were both thinking about it.
Quiet.
But also being at the bottom of, this is very specific, Carlsbad Caverns, whenever it's quiet and you can just hear the dripping of water with silence all around you. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I went to a deep.
That's very peaceful. We're all we're all there with
We're
you.
there.
We're there. Okay, so what sound do you hate?
My children bickering.
Yes.
Got a lot of it in the last 3 months. So.
Oh, yes, right. A lot of togetherness.
Yes.
Screaming and chaos. Yeah, that would be it.
All right. What profession would you like to try if you weren't doing what you're doing?
I want to do what you're doing,
but
I wouldn't
You're
be that
doing a
good.
great job.
That's good.
That bar would be too high. So yeah,
She's good.
probably something in media. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I might want to write. It'd
All
be
right.
hard, but I could imagine it.
All right. What job do you know you would not want to do?
I don't want to wait tables. That is hard work. I don't.
I'm gonna have to start answering first because
You
I'm just
Sorry, I keep answering
no, you are. You got good answers. Maybe I just start copying off you. That's a good one. I don't like that either.
That's right. Waiting tables. All right. Last question, and this may be the same answer from you too. What do you want to hear God say when you enter the pearly gates?
Well done, good and faithful servant.
Welcome home.
All right, good. Love it. Okay, so if folks want to help, I mean, you mentioned Amazon. They just look on your website.
That's right.
How can they help both of your agencies?
Well, I mean, I'll just say first and foremost, we are a ministry that believes in the power of prayer. When we have seen how that has uplifted, strengthened our ministry, we actually put a challenge out to all of our supporters during this time, and obviously with world events as they continue to go as they are, we're going to keep that going. That every day at 4:00. We pause for a moment. For some of our folks, it's just to say, "Dear Lord, please remember Methodist Children's Home." For others, they've talked about that's when they've positioned their quiet time to be able to do it. So we enlist the prayers of folks. Obviously, opportunities for service and giving, folks can find that at mch.org. To be able to go in and kind of search through those to see where it is. For some, it may be a calling to be a home parent, to be a volunteer, or to just make Methodist Children's Home one of the ministries that they support.
Very good.
Absolutely. And you can find out more about the Cove at thecovewaco.org. And really what we need the most in an ongoing way is just some of that monthly financial support. So as a young, small nonprofit, that does create a type of sustainability and stability for us. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to see grow this year. In addition to, we always have opportunities to give things that help make a student's life brighter, whether that is non-perishable food items or art supplies or school supplies. And I will say right now we are very stocked with those things because we haven't had students in the building this spring. But in general, the link to our wish list is on our website. And then lastly, folks can volunteer. So there is a decently extensive process for going through a background check and an interview and an application for us to learn more about folks who want to be part of students' lives. But if a person can commit an hour or two a week for a shift to come up to the Cove, those mentors really are individuals that are both part of investing in youth, and they also find that it's very transformative for them. So we have a lot of volunteers who say, I really don't see life in the same way after having been committed to the Cove and getting to know this particular student, and they've come to mean a lot to me. So those would be ways for folks to get involved.
Excellent. The Methodist Children's Home, the Cove, both, creating such a wonderful impact in the lives of kids and changing their lives for the better. Thanks. Thank you both. Thank you, Kelly, Trey, for being with us.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.